Absolute value equations. We're going to look at two forms of the equation, both with the first degree polynomial inside the absolute value. The first with a constant outside, and the second with a first degree polynomial outside. Of the first form, this is probably one of the most basic examples, absolute value of x equals 3. If we look at the definition, it means that x equals 3 or minus x equals 3. There we are. We're going to turn that around and say, well, therefore x equals negative 3, so we'll have a plus or minus 3. There we are. So, let's look at a first example. Absolute value of x plus 6 equals 5. That means x plus 6 is plus or minus 5, and we solve for x. This one here, we need to solve for absolute value first. So I'm going to move this absolute value to the right because of the negative outside it. Then I'm just going to flip the equation back the other way. So 4 minus p equals plus or minus 2. And it gives us that p is 4 plus or minus 2, 6 or 2. You need to be careful. We need to be careful with these ones. If you take, for example, the absolute value of 4k plus 3 equals negative 8. We cannot have an absolute value equaling a negative number. So it's no solution. That's why it's a good idea if you actually check your answers always by substitution into the original. So I could take negative 1 and put it into the original and say negative 1 plus 6 is 5, absolute value 5, yes. Negative 11 into there, negative 11 plus 6, negative 5, absolute value 5, yes, both are acceptable. Some examples to do, pause, try them yourself, they will continue. No solution right at the start. I hope you picked up the absolute value equals a negative cannot do. And the same applies to number 2. You're getting on your toes earlier in this one. Multiply up by the 6, pretty standard after that. When we divide by the 6, 0 divided by 6 is still 0. Now we look at the second form of the equation. We're going to apply the same principle, but it becomes very important in this case to check your answer. There is a more formal way of doing these equations, going right back to definition, but it's not necessary at this stage. But if you do want a video with that method used, just message me on YouTube and I'll provide that video. So absolute value 2x minus 3 equals x plus 9 means that I'm going to say 2x minus 3 equals plus or minus x plus 9. Notice I'm treating that as if it's a number. That gives us two equations, the plus x plus 9 and the negative. Those brackets are important. Take note of that. Solving, I get two values, 12 and negative 2. Checking the answers. Left hand side, 21. Right hand side, 21. 12 is acceptable. X equals negative 2. Left hand side, 7. Right hand side, 7. We can accept both answers. Once again, two equations. There are two answers. Let's check. Left hand side 120. Right hand side 120. We accept that answer. Left hand side 32. Right hand side 10. No. That answer needs to be removed. So therefore x is only equal to 24. Some examples for you to do. Pause, try them yourself. Two equations, the plus or minus. And we get x equals 2, negative 4. Don't forget, we need to check. Checking, we found both are fine. Once again, both fine there. Notice we found negative 14 does not work. Substitute negative 14 into the original. Do not substitute at this stage into the very original before you've introduced the plus or minus. And it's checked. So our answer, negative 2. Checking once again, we found negative 15 does not work. So we've now checked it, and the answer just negative 1. Interesting case here. We end up with the same answer for both. Check that answer, and it works. Checking, we found both go. No solution.